Good evening, everyone. It's time to start the event. So I would like to invite Mr. Anirudh from Radisson Blu to give us the safety briefing.
Hi, good evening all. I just say about a little about safety briefing, the safety and security. This hall is the back side, you have the fire exit door, and the both side you have the fire exit staircase. If you any emergency, please just use that fire exit staircase only. And if any guest is staying in our hotel, please, if you any emergency, please don't use the elevator. You can use the fire exit staircase near the elevator. And if you any emergency, please dial 555. Our ERT team will help you. So, thank you so much.
No entero. Okay. Okay. Next. One thing, nothing. And.
Oh, Diversey barrel, 100 years old. Channel to channel. It was made in Chicago in 1923, and I still exist to this day. I belong to Austin, a company from a restaurant. They saw a big sign outside that read Diversey, and so they named their company that. But they lacked an imagination for inventing company names. They made up for sheer brilliance in inventing innovative
Namaskara, Bengaluru.
products because they
A
recognized
very
that
pleasant evening to all our esteemed guests. I, Vishnu Srivastava,
hello.
been the powerhouse of unmatched innovation in cleaning and hygiene industry for over 100 years. In the last century, we have constantly developed, questioned, and reinvented our solutions. Also,
I'm 100 years old. I've got a few bells. It was made in Chicago in
all words to discuss and deliberate.
1923. It still exists to this day. I belong to August and Herbert Cox, started a company from a restaurant. They saw a big sign outside that read Diversey, and so they named their company that. But they lacked an imagination for inventing company names. They made up for with sheer brilliance in it.
Really grateful, really thankful that everybody of you could make it. And thank you so much for being here and making this event a success. Thank you so much. A big round of applause for all of you. Any other PPT, please? I think the PPT is stuck in traffic. Yeah. Okay. You would have seen this across. We are starting with this. I think it's a glitch and there was a welcome slide. But you would have seen this across in various forums. Diversey is not now part of Solonis. Solonis is a leader in multi-specialty chemicals and water treatment. And does it change anything for us? No. We work the same way, same solution, same interaction. The people remain the same, but a much higher value. That's what we bring together, and we take absolute pride that we are an EcoVadis certified platinum company. Only 1% of the companies in the world are EcoVadis platinum certified, and we are one of them. Can we have the next slide, please? It's not working. Which are the avenues we serve together? That part we mostly know, the retail areas, the building service contractors, the buildings, the hospitality, healthcare. This is the part which gets added. We are into consumer solutions now as a part of Solonis, food packaging and processing, tissue manufacturing, and pool solutions. So going forward, we will be having solutions for pools also. Together, we are one global team present in 130 countries, close to 71 manufacturing facilities, 96,000 customers being serviced by 16,000 people. Now that's the strength we are talking about when we are come together. Whether it's a asset in a workplace, whether it's a student going to a school, whether a person visiting a mall, or people using public infrastructure, what is the mission? Your mission is to make sure that you protect what is truly precious to them. So is our mission. Go beyond clean to take care of what's precious. That's the mission of Diversey, with which we work to make sure that we go much beyond clean to protect, safeguard the health of the occupants of the building. What is precious? The health and well-being of our customers, their customers, co-workers, employees. The brand reputation is precious. Health, healthy and safe food, and the future of our planet. That's how we define precious. We are more than happy that we, along with you, we alone cannot do it, but we, along with you, together, we make sure that we go beyond clean and protect what's precious for this planet. Now, for anything to click, in my view, for anything to click, it should fall in 3 criteria. It should be easy to use. It should be extremely environment friendly. And most important, it should be pocket friendly. To give an example, the most pocket friendly way of cleaning would be sweeping with a broom. Most environment friendly, right? It's a broomstick. But ease of use, no, cross. So it doesn't qualify. That's how I want to put it. And for anything to click, it has to be easy to use, it has to be pocket friendly, it has to be environment friendly. So the solutions from Diversey in a ease of use perspective, you would have heard about Diversey Express. Diversey Express are sachet solutions for small sites. You tear off a sachet, use it for a day, and that's it, done. Next day, you use a different sachet. All the dilution hassles out of the way for small sites. You do not need to maintain large cans, and that's how we make it easy to use. No, small sites are definitely difficult to train because single janitor, 2 janitors, and this is how we make sure that it is foolproof solution when it comes to dilution. Smart dose. So all the years we are using 5-liter cans, which gives us mobility. You can make the solution anywhere. Then came an era of Divermite or the wall-mounted dispensers. The beauty was the dispensers could dispense the best possible solution, but they were wall-mounted. You could not carry it along. Diversey made sure that we make it further easy. Smart dose gives you mobility and dispensing accuracy. So you see the cap on top of the bottle. The cap can be, if you rotate it clockwise, pull it up, plunge, it will discharge for a spray bottle. Other way around, it will discharge for a 50-liter bucket. Completely foolproof. So you have got dilution, you have got mobility, everything in one. That's how we make it easy to use. When you do kitchenware, when you do machine-ware wash, you have a rinse aid, you have a detergent to make sure everything is clear. A single solution, a one piece of cake or rather material which takes care of both the washing and rinsing. That's the ease we are talking about. Auxiliary wipes, 1 minute disinfection. Disinfection is a big process, but these wipes, once you wipe the surface with these wipes, the surface gets disinfected in 1 minute. Accelerated hydrogen peroxide technology. That's what we mean by ease of use. What does cost effective? IntelliPower. IntelliPower is something from Diversey which we have launched pretty recently, about 3 months back. With great pride, I can tell you these things are working at our Indian Parliament Central Vista. Now, today we are used to machines which are charged for 8 hours, used for 4 hours. IntelliPower is about charging for 4 hours, using for 4 hours. So your productivity is doubled. Plus, because it is lithium ion, you allow intermittent charging. It's like a mobile phone now. If you require 20 minutes work, let's charge it for 30 minutes and move on with it. No need to charge the whole day. That's what we talk about cost-effective solutions, where we reduce the cost overall by increasing productivity. Smart cleaning, most of you have heard about smart cleaning. We have implemented in India close to 400 odd sites till now. In Bangalore itself, we have close to 75 smart cleaning sites, and Bangalore should take pride that it is the city with the highest number of smart cleaning sites across. So that's a great compliment to Bangalore. What does smart cleaning bring? Smart cleaning drives efficiency, smart cleaning drives productivity, and hence makes it much more cost effective. Third and most important. So we covered easy to use, pocket friendly, now environment friendly. Flax Advance. It's our laundry systems which consume 30% lesser water, which consume 30% lesser power. So you can wash them, wash the linen at a much lower temperature and with a far lesser amount of water. So that's how you are easy for environment. Green Seal products, many sites in Bangalore use Green Seal products. Most of you have been using at your sites. Of course, waterless urinal from Flush Me Not program is a waterless urinal program from Diversey. Every time a site uses this, we save about 1,200 liters of water per urinal. So that's the power of this tool. That's how we are environment friendly. This is something as a chemical company you will feel while we are promoting this, but it is a chemical-free cleaning twister. It's a pad with diamond dust to it, and this diamond dust will generate so much mechanical action that you will not require chemical to clean. Water and this pad is good enough. So all your carbon oxygen demand or chemical oxygen demand of the water, ETP, all this is solved because you're cleaning with water only. So that's how we are environment friendly. So Diversey has solutions which are easy to use, which are cost effective, and which are environment friendly. These are some new launches from the Diversey end. You would be seeing, I wouldn't take much of time here. The Ballymet 2300. Ultimax is an auto scrubber with multiple head changes. In a single auto scrubber, you can change heads and use it for multiple functionality. Dignity of labor. This is one cause which Diversey have been driving since the time they have been in the country. Our flagship CSR program is called Garima, where we take people from the unprivileged areas, train them at our cost. When I say cost of training, cost of lodging, cost of boarding, everything for 15 days. Then we call upon our service partners, and some of you have placed them, to take them and absorb them for employment. So that's the way we are contributing to the society. And we are ensuring that they are trained with the best methods. They use the latest technology so that their dignity is maintained. Again, smart cleaning will ensure that a janitor's hand never gets dirty. He doesn't need to touch soiled water anytime. That's how the program is created. So we make sure that this job isn't dirty anymore. That's the way we bring dignity to the job. Other CSR initiatives from Diversey, Soap for Hope, a program under which we collect used soap from hotels. We have set up a kind of a cottage industry in various underprivileged areas. They sanitize the soap, reprocess it, make bars out of it, and distribute in the locality. That way we increase the hygiene of the locality, and that's a CSR program we are in. Other is linens for life. Pretty similar. We collect linen from hotels, used linen, process it, sanitize it, clean it, and make sure it is used in the underprivileged communities. That's how we are contributing to the society. Apart from what we do as a CSR, we are grateful, fortunate, honored, along with you, to be part of an industry who does something for living which others do for philanthropy. For somebody, beach cleaning is philanthropy. For us, it is living. So beyond what we do in CSR, the entire corporate social value is what we do in CSR, blood the economic value generated out of programs like Flush Me Not, programs like smart cleaning, programs like Twister, where we save a lot of stuff. This is the impact we have done. 38,000 tons of end-of-life linen have been saved from landfills and distributed across. 19 billion liters of water. That's what we have saved till date. For nearly 47 million kg reduction in carbon emission. Close to 50 million bars of soap through our Soap for Hope initiative. And that much has been prevented from going into landfill. So that's the power of Diversey that we are talking about. With this, I end my presentation. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks a lot.
I'm going to invite someone who has an extensive background in facility management services, a stalwart who has dedicated close to 30 years of his career to understand and promote the aspects of cleanliness, hygiene, and overall well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for none other than Mr. Vijendra Babji, Executive Director, Work Dynamics, West Asia, JLL.
It was excessively glorious description. So before I start, may I request, hope the presentation will come up. Can I request in this extremely august audience, how many of you are associated with facility management industry? Can I have the hands raised, please? Thank you. And how many of you are from hotel management background? Great. Hospitality, I meant. And how many of you are from military? Great. The reason I asked for this, in fact, and I was pretty intimidated to ask about this, and of course, even speak about the topic I'm going to address you all with, is because I want to start with my own personal story. I'm a mechanical engineer. My name is Vijendra Babji, as was introduced, and I work for JLL. I'm a mechanical engineer by training. I joined Indian Navy as a commission officer. And 7 years later, I felt there was opportunities in the industry outside because Indian and of course the world business was booming. And I was inspired to come out and explore career opportunity outside. As we all would do, I looked up to people who are close to me about career and what I should be doing. Unfortunately, because I was a mechanical engineer in the Navy and then armed forces, the only type of jobs I got was a maintenance engineer or a security officer. It was tagged. So it was hard to remove the stamp. But facility management happened to me. And what the heck, I'm standing in front of you and talking about the industry. So the reason I'm telling my story is because we should all be very proud of this industry. And a couple of facts and figures I'll share with you probably improves your own feeling about the industry. Facility management term itself was coined by, next slide please. Oh, sorry, I've got this in. Was coined by a gentleman by name Ross Perot. He was one of the IBM alumni, and also he was the founder of EDS, very famous company in data. And he referred to facility management as reference to IT infrastructure. So if it was in 1960s, and that's where facility management term got coined. And over the years, 1970s, more and more non-IT services started becoming part of facility management. So if any one of us feels that facility management is very old, IT is a very new thing, probably I should help you to wipe out that. We are contemporaries, as contemporary to IT industry as it can be. In about 1970s, more and more services started getting added to this facility management. And the definition of facility management started coming up more and more clear. How do we define facility management? It is a profession that ensures delivery of efficient and effective services in a facility, in a building, in a cluster of building, in a part of a building, or a bunch of assets. All of this put together with the purpose of ensuring safe, security, and convenience of the occupants. That's the simplest way to describe it. And over years, as I said, more and more services started getting added to it. Initially, it was fundamentally, I'm not good with this, sorry. Initially, it used to be only maintenance or administration. That was what facility management was about. Maintenance is you're given something, a physical asset, or you are given a process, and your role is to maintain it. Nothing great about it, just maintain it. Or if you're given a process or a service, administer it. That was the origin of our services in FM. Over years, more and more items got added to it. Transportation, food and beverage, meetings, meeting management, event management, front office, human experience, guest services, safety, security, landscape maintenance, and whatnot. A lot of things got added to it. Life cycle management of asset became a lot more important. And that's where, including even project management, this is currently what is facility management. Everything you see in the words here is part of facility management. It's as complex as anyone can describe any profession. So I'm very proud of being in facility management. And as companies became bigger, they became global, and they started adding a lot of portfolio to their organizations. They went multi-countries. The complexity of facility management became very, very high. And the way facility management started becoming important as an industry, I would explain with a simple example. If one has to serve a burger to a gentleman in San Francisco once, it's not a big deal. But if, like McDonald's, you serve burgers in 38,000 locations across the world, catering to hundreds of currencies, cultures, and making sure that wherever it is served, it is same in quality, in taste, and the experience of being served, it's an industry of its own. And that's why today facility management, for the sizes of organizations that it is serving, it is very complex, and we should be very proud of that as a big profession. Honestly, looking back, comparing to some of the IT professionals that I was comparing myself to, I don't think we are left behind. We have caught up with IT industry as well. The kind of conferences we are able to conduct here, congratulations, Diversey, for a very high quality conference environment. And that is a demonstration of how far we have come and how far we can still go. Just letting you know the size of this FM industry. Today, in 2023, we have $1,292 billion of turnover worldwide in FM industry. And it is supposed to be growing by 2030 to nearly $31 billion. And what is Asia Pacific share in this? Asia Pacific share is close to half of this. We will be probably $900 billion by 2030 in turnover, which, if I convert it into Indian rupees, we're talking about 7 lakh crore rupees, 3 times the entire Reliance Group's valuation. So that's the size of the business we are in. So why I'm giving you this? One, of course, to give respect to our profession, but more importantly, to give you all assurance that we've got a long way of career to look forward to. Now, facility management has been evolving. It is evolving in rapid scale. And one of the main things there are a couple of things which are really changing today's facility management. Driving experience is one big aspect of it. I want to give you a couple of examples. If in the past, there's someone in a facility complaining AC is too cold or too hot, the maintenance engineer would come with the isometric measurement and check. And if the temperature is between 23 to 25 degrees, he or she will say, we are maintaining as we are required to. Sorry, if needed, you either wear a jacket or do something else and go off. Now that is because they were managing only a process. Today, that's not what's going to work. The facility manager is expected to check it out, why the individual is feeling uncomfortable. Look for change of airflow, increase temperature, adjust temperature, change the humidity. If needed, offer a different workstation or location so the individual will feel comfortable. And that's about experience. I'll give another example. We had a situation in one of our accounts where the help desk is also a source of issuing stationery. And one of the client's employees comes in and says, on a Friday afternoon, I have a big conference coming up on Monday and I need 500 letterheads and I need them urgently. So the help desk says, definitely we have enough letterheads to give you, but we need the head of the department to approve. And the individual said, sorry, my HOD is on a trek to Himalayas and he's out of reach. I can't even get him a mail or get a message to him. So can you help? The help desk said, no. The process says, unless the HOD has approved, do not issue. My job will be at stake. And she got very upset and she started arguing and it became an escalation and somebody very senior had to intervene. And the simple solution that was given was, can you send a mail with a condition that help desk is not at fault for issuing this because you had put pressure on the individual, the stationery is issuing, and you will get an post facto approval from the HOD. Pretty simple, right? But the facility manager to think that one is empowered to do that, and one is actually given empowerment to make those decisions, and to be able to think of a solution rather than a response to a process, is the change that we are going through right now. That's about experience. Another thing that's influencing facility management, already my previous speaker was talking about sustainability quite a bit, Mr. Kiran Rao. Sustainability is having a massive impact on what organization. How many of you know the importance of 1.5 degrees centigrade? Please raise hands. That's a very sad percentage here. Okay. In 2015, most of the countries of the world got together with the concern about global warming. They decided scientifically that if the warming of the Earth continues the way it is continuing, by 2100, if you do not arrest the increase of temperature by 1.5 degrees, the world will go through catastrophe. Life will perish. So it is something my children also tell me. If I throw a plastic, piece of plastic bag somewhere, they will not let the car move forward. They say, stop, pick up the bag. And then that's something I learned from my children, because they're worried about their future. Now, when countries are committing to controlling the global warming, organizations are required to control as well. Now, today, if, for example, Infosys is engaged by Google for software development as a partner, if Google has committed for sustainability and their contribution to sustainability, it's not enough. Google is expected to even ensure even Infosys is sustainable. That's part of the scope 3. Scope 1 and 2 already is something which the facility manager can control. All the energy, all the CO2 that's generated from the business within the premises of the organization are part of something which can be influenced by a facility manager. But moving to it to a scale of scope 3, again, a facility manager has a massive role in it. You are going to influence the upstream and downstream of the process, where your suppliers, your material suppliers, your chemical suppliers, equipment suppliers, and service partners, all of them are sustainable. Why this has come about is, if everybody is pushing everyone else to be sustainable, the world become absolutely tight, and hopefully will control the growth of the increase of temperature from 1.5 degrees by the turn of the century. So it's a pretty daunting task, but I hope that also is a message for each one of us to do what we need to do in our lives and in our professions. I was asked to talk about actually FM of tomorrow. So let me talk quickly through some examples. The first two, probably if you can't see this, don't worry, because I spoke about experience and sustainability. So the second important aspect is ESG. Today, the world is not just going to be focused on environment. It is ESG, society and governance as well. So companies are required to even look at how their products are influencing the society, how are they engaging people, what is the role in diversity and equity, and how are they making sure that their work, their product, and their services are influencing the community locally, nationally, and internationally as well. So that's where, again, FM has a huge role, because we end up responsible for hundreds of laborers, hundreds of skilled workers, non-skilled workers through us. And that's a huge opportunity for us to make sure they are looked after and they are supported as well. And through this whole mass of people that we have influence, we can contribute immensely to the ESG objectives. The next one is technology. I mean, I'll be silly to talk too much about technology here, but it suffices to say that today equipment, whether it is HVAC or electrical installations or whatever, are very sophisticated, and technology is driving the role of the facility manager to a much higher level of sophistication as well. And facility managers are required to be equipped with it, or at least hire adequate talent to be able to do that. But other side of technology is what is influencing human experience. For example, I have stopped going to my bank probably a few years ago now. I've not gone to my bank. I do all my transactions through my phone. What is interesting is my wife actually pays to the onion vendor on a cart through a Paytm. So that's how the world is. And do not expect that that will not fall into a facility manager's experience. Today, employees want their experience and the services that are provided in a facility through their palm, through their phone. And a lot of effort is going in, and to be abreast of what's going on in technology in the facility management is a key requirement of facility managers as well. And that's driving the future of FM. As I mentioned, the scale is something which is quite daunting today. And how do we make sure that we control and we manage that level of scale of operation and only having a focus on data? So technology and data are connected, and facility manager today should have a massive focus on how data is flowing and how it is being analyzed. COVID brought a new dimension to the way offices are functioning. Hybrid is a reality. And hybrid means employee can choose where he or she would like to work from on any given day. That means the facility manager cannot predict how many people will come to work on a particular given day unless the policy says so. There's no company in the world that actually has all of them so fixed as yet. So the facility manager should be able to understand how the space is being utilized and how the data trend is happening, so that adequate information is passed to the decision makers so that the portfolio of this real estate can be adjusted. And that's again a very important scope that's defining the role of a facility manager. There's something you probably cannot see here. It is employee well-being. We spoke about employee well-being earlier. Today, especially during the COVID times, we all understood how healthy one can be in a clean environment when vehicles are not passing in the roads. And that has actually put in also the fear of contamination, people wearing masks when they came back to work. And all of this was talking about the quality of air, the quality of lighting, and how that is influencing the productivity of employees. And facility manager, again, is at the core of this activity. So knowing how your infrastructure is designed and is performing to contribute to the well-being of employee is a big requirement of the facility manager of tomorrow. Dynamic operations. We spoke about how hybrid functions, but every day, the number of employees coming into a facility is changing. And the facility manager should be having a dynamic system behind that adjusts to it. Today, only 1,000 people came for work, and then that much only had food in the cafeteria. Next day, there's an event happening and 5,000 people turned up. How will the catering whole system cater to that? And the ability to adjust to that kind of a dynamic functioning is a role of a facility manager again. Now we talk about human experience, and one of the first thing everybody looks at is how do you increase the human experience, increase the facilities, or give a lot of amenities to employees. By the way, that also will shoot up the cost. And today, with a recession hitting everywhere, it is the role of the facility manager to balance between both. Make sure that you're spending adequate amount of money, at the same time, get the maximum bang for the buck. And that needs innovation, that needs smartness, and that needs real thinking and strategy. And procurement, my friend here is the head of our procurement for West Asia. Procurement is 100% integrated into all of this. The way you procure materials, your equipment, how they contribute to sustainability and ESG, and the labor and the whole turnover, and the cost management is significant. And everywhere you see, the organization is demonstrating responsibility to the world environment and the society. So that's again a very big influencer on the facility manager. And the last one is during COVID again, companies were tested how they will operate in a crisis. And who stood in the middle of all of that? It's the facility manager. And that's where the strength of the facility manager is also demonstrating how organizations' resiliency is, how your business processes can sustain during crisis, how power can be managed, how IT can function, how people can access their database. All of this has got a facility manager standing behind all of that. So these are the 10 elements that contribute to the future of facility managers. To sum it up, yesterday, we used to have, it was all maintenance. If you maintain, you are a good facility manager. Today, FM is equal to E cube. Efficiency, excellence is still required, and experience and environment and consciousness is required. But the future of facility manager is E to the power of 5. Efficiency, excellence is fundamental. Of course, it's taken for granted. It has to be there. You have to cater to the experience of the user. ESG is a new dimension in terms of environment and sustainability, but have a bigger impact on what we do. And employee wellness. And last but not the least, electronic, which is technology, digital. That's what is shaping our future. And if you see the arrow at the bottom, which I hope some of you can see, we are moving from driving, managing cost, in fact, being a cost center, to driving value in our life. And that's what is facility managers. Yeah. If I have a little bit of a time, I have some fun video. I hope I can play it and hope the audio will be heard there as well. This is one of my favorite videos. Can that be played, please? If you have not seen it, you will enjoy it. And thank you very much.
You know, a lot of people ask me, well, some people ask me, 2 people asked me once, what is facilities management again? What? Let me clarify this. Facilities management is a very specialized function that is evolving in corporate America, which takes care of the management of facilities in said corporations. Is that a lot clearer? Let me try one more time. Facilities management has a very specific job description. It's just that nobody knows what it is. You see, an FM, as I was saying to put it, has to be very familiar with management and facilities, as well as architecture, design, marketing, and also be an electrician, an engineer, a fortune teller, a gambler, and a magician. Besides that, the job is easy. The trick is the coordination. The team, dealers, designers, and facility managers. It all starts with strategic planning. Once you've started, it's not only what you do, it's how you do it. Once the project gets started, things get a little more complex. Some people think this can be done with one hand behind your back. People think a really talented FMer could keep this project going and even look away. Yes, they do. Keeping a watchful eye out for the unexpected. Just as I thought, the old unexpected again. You see, there comes a point in every facilities manager's life where it all has to be put together. You can't fake it. That's right. The left-hand return goes in the right office. The right-hand return goes in the left office. Very good. That goes there, that goes there, there. Check the 3rd floor. Not ready yet. Everything under control. A brilliant idea. Now, the trick is coordination. Without it, it's a lot like juggling on a motorcycle. Is that getting any clearer? Well, now that everybody's moved in, things should slow down. Just kick back and oversee the facility. There may be a few minor details to work on, but as long as you're ready for anything. Oh, we out already? Did I say anything? I meant everything. Reconfiguring. Added security. Sure. Fighting. Plunging. Forecasting. Red tape. Baby boomers. And then that starts all over again. Not that facilities management is a difficult job. It's just that you have to wear a lot of hats. It's knowing everything about everything, being everywhere, every minute of every day. Whether the job is big or small, the trick's coordination. Besides that, the job is easy.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us the assurance that we all are part of the right industry. All right. So I would like to request Mr. Brijesh Rathore, Vice President, Indian Subcontinent, Professional Business and Global Strategic Accounts, to please come on stage and felicitate our keynote speaker for the evening, Mr. Vijayendra Babji. A big round of applause.
Hi, good evening again. Just wanted to take a couple of minutes. We as a cleaning industry are extremely fortunate to have in our midst today Mr. A.S. Bhimrajappa, Director, Construction, Maintenance Group and Facilities for none other than ISRO. A big salute to this. Please, sir. I would call upon Mr. Brijesh, MD India Diversey. Please come and felicitate Mr. Bhimrajappa. Thank you, sir, for everything you do for the country. As an industry, we are indebted to you. The nation is indebted to you. Thank you so much for honoring us with your presence.
Thank you.
A big salute to all of you. And if I can request a standing ovation for the ISRO team for the wonderful thing.
A famous quote says, sustainability is no longer about doing less harm. It is about doing more good. If we want a sustainable tomorrow, we all need to start today. With this thought in mind, let's move on to our next session for the evening, the panel discussion on the topic, Sustaining Sustainability. And without further delay, I would like to invite our esteemed panelists on stage. A big round of applause for Ms. Angera Bose, Senior Director Operations, JLL. Mr. Charles, Chief Executive Officer, Enabler. Mr. Raghav Kapoor, Director, SELA. Mr. Basil Kilor, Senior Director, Property Management, CBRE. Captain Vaibhav Pandey, Assistant Vice President, Westian Global. Mr. Adnanjeet Singh, Vice President, Zonal Operations, DDSS. It is also my pleasure to invite the moderator for the panel discussion, Mr. Saji Sebastian, Founder Director, FM Future Labs. Stage is all yours, sir.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. And first of all, thank you, Babji, for a wonderful keynote. And I think it was very inspiring for all of us to be in the FM fraternity. And I think your journey has inspired most of us, and including me, and I must acknowledge that. And thank you, the August audience who is here. And thank you, the August audience that's here. And it's wonderful to see such a large, fully packed crowd. And hopefully we will do justice through our discussions and we take back something valuable back home, like how Babji was able to inspire us and give us some food for thought. So today this is the third event that I'm participating in the last 1 week. And the flavor of the season has been sustainability. And either that this is something that we all are wanting to be focused on, is what most of us believe. And that's what Mr. Babji also said. One of the future, lies of FM lies in sustainability. But when we were discussing internally, someone said, is it just the elephant in the room? Or is it, as I mentioned, just the flavor of the season? So the topic today is sustaining sustainability. So that's basically the topic today. And I will try to move on to my first panelist is I'll go around. I just want to get your opinions. Start with Adnan, you, on your opinion on this particular topic and the initiatives, what you do, and where do you place yourself in this particular topic of sustaining sustainability?
Thanks, Shaji. So if I look at as to where we place ourselves in this thing is that this is the next blooming project that is going around. I mean, if we do not work on it, we do not see a future that's going to be happening. And and this is something that is started, and the only way to go about is to enter into it, and there's no other second thoughts about it.
Yeah, so if I could continue. I think it's also about all of us coming together and probably contributing to it. It's not one individual initiative that it should be taken across with. The institutions, right from an organization or companies, individuals, all of us have to come together. The narrative that we talk about today, sustainability, it should not be part of conferences at large, where we are only discussing it over a panel interview. But then each one of us who are there sitting across in the audience, as well as once we go back, it is the same initiative that we carry back. Whichever level, whichever place we belong to, we put it across together. And I think that's how the entire initiative of sustainability could be driven. If somebody thinks that individually we could talk about it, and then we don't have a buy-in from each one of us, I think that becomes a problem for each one of us. And I think it loses its flavor going forward. After a certain time, it will die its own death, because there are so many constraints that you'll see while moving forward. So I think it's a collective effort that all of us should put together.
Captain Weber, very well put. Basil?
Hi. So, sustainability is a way of life. And we Indians, we should be very proud of ourselves in many senses, because unlike other countries, we are a very sustainable society. I remember decades ago, ABB gifted us an incinerator plant, which is set up on the edge of Delhi. And the idea was to encourage India to go in for incineration technology instead of landfills and stuff like that. But to their shock and horror, our garbage doesn't burn, because by the time our garbage reaches the plant, every bit of plastic, every bit of food material has been picked out of it already. I come from a very sustainable house where my wife doesn't believe in single-use plastic, which means we have a lot of plastic in the house, which is being used again and again. And I think that's common with all of us. But having said that, as a facilities manager, I know that sustainability is something that has become a mantra with us now. In the early years, 20, 25 years ago, this was a word we didn't use much, though it was very commonly used, and it was a way of life in other countries. But today, everything is about sustainability. We are part of some baseline measurement. We're part of some strategy which is being implemented, or we are even the experts helping people to implement a good sustainable strategy. So I think it's a journey that we've just started and which has a long way to go.
Thanks, Basil. Raghav, what is your take on it?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of points at the cost of sounding a little diplomatic. And this was repeated. This is something I'm repeating, which Babji had already mentioned, but I think we owe it to the future generations. So it shouldn't be something that needs to be drilled down and implemented or enforced upon us. It's something that we actually, as self-responsibility, owe it to the future generations. The second part, though, is something that I talk from our own experience, right? Which is pushing each other, as Mr. Babji had mentioned. How can all of us in this room really push one another to be more sustainable, right? I'll use an example of our own, which is we have an investor, which is a fund called Norwest Venture Partners. They actually entered back in 2018. And at that point, they brought in this concept of we have to send them an ESG report every quarter, right? And back in 2018, I think there was a lot less noise around ESG and sustainability. But till today, every quarter, we have to actually report an ESG, which has led us to have a dedicated team working on this, because we said, otherwise, how else do we really report this every quarter? So similarly, amongst us in this room, how do we push each other? Can we get SLAs and KPIs into each of our contracts that actually talk about sustainability and goals towards achieving them? With us, we have a lot of our operations managers that have sustainability goals to drive these initiatives. And I think the sort of last point would be on what is our strength as an FM industry, right? Our ESG team actually keeps coming to us with various, I would call them channel partners that have sustainable initiatives. But why do they come to us? Our strength, I think, is leveraging our network of clients and sites across the country, which they don't have access to. So how do we bring them onto our platform to really drive through sustainability? I think that's our strength with everyone in this room. And that's what we should work towards.
Lovely. Charles, thoughts?
So I'll speak on behalf of exclusive housekeeping company. We're a small housekeeping company with about 5,000 employee base. So for us, it's more like moving out of ignorance. That is the first, move, because we've been ignorant for too long, right? So moving out of ignorance is the first step, and going towards an ESG registration or getting yourself audited or getting your work audited. We are in the housekeeping industry or in the housekeeping, operations. We are contributing a lot. But the thing is, we ourselves don't know how much we contribute, right? We are like Bhutan. They were net zero even before Greta Thunberg was born, but they realized it only after getting audited. So I think it's a journey which has commenced, and from here on, we can only improve. There's no scope for going back. So I am sure with the whole industry looking at it, in a correct perspective, and we will move forward.
Ms. Angira?
Thanks, Aji. So I would relate sustaining sustainability in terms of how we deal with changes. So I think few pointers which would be important in terms of sustaining it would be: one, we need to communicate it better, the need, the purpose, why are we doing it? Celebrating small wins, not waiting for a greater milestone to achieve. A small initiative, for example, having a better segregation method would be a step towards adding to it. Babji was talking about engagement. So involving, empowerment and engaging people, taking suggestions, recognizing them for their efforts. And last, not the least, what I feel is if we have to be part of the game, then we need to know what are the current trends. We cannot be left behind. So I think the list is huge, but I think few of these things will help us to sustain it well.
Great. Just to summarize, I think we all mentioned that, it is something that we can't ignore now, no longer. We have to be conscious about it. But in our industry, probably it would all mean that we are preventing wastage and ensuring efficiency, as Mr. Babji has put in multiple slides, and ensuring that we are efficient in every aspect, from procurement to the way we deliver, and the experience then gets better from there on. Moving on to the next question is, Raghav, what does our industry need to do to continue the momentum on sustainability, and how do we track the gains of sustainability?
Yeah, so I think we were all just discussing on how do we continue the momentum that we've got so far on sustainability. But how do we track the gains, I think, is something that all of us have been trying to figure out, right? So I think there's two parts to this. The first part is, like Angira mentioned, is about small wins. And I think if we actually take a concentrated, sincere effort, right, to track our gains, it's not really that difficult. We saw in the first presentation with Diversey that they had a lot of figures on how much water has been conserved, how many CO2 emissions. So it's not, we have Sir from ISRO over here. I'd like to say it's not rocket science to try and get those small gains. So I'll use just a couple of examples that we've done ourselves in actually quantifying our gains in sustainability, right? I think one example was we use nano coating on carpets to try and prevent carpet shampooing, right? So effectively you coat the carpets with this chemical, and what it does is if you spill tea, coffee, it's as if it's not touched the carpet surface. So you can just take a dry cloth and wipe it off. Now with that, it's pretty simple to quantify how much water have you conserved by calculating the frequency of carpet shampooing, right? There you can come up with the first option. The second one, I think, is something that a lot of the other peers in the industry probably already know, which is tracking where your energy is actually coming from, right? There's a lot of people over here from, large builders as well. Where are they actually sourcing their energy from? Is it through renewable sources? Can we put in more of an effort to promote that coming from renewable sources? Linked to energy, again, is something which is simple to track, which is, have you tried to explore rooftop solar, right? Again, that's where I think the leverage of sites and clients that we have is our strength. Today, we have close to about 5 or 6 different IPPs, which is individual power producers that have small hydro or solar plants, and they don't have access to the client base that we have to try and sell that power to them directly. So they are going at the lowest level, which is the government, which gives you the most subsidized rate possible. Whereas if they were to come directly to an MNC or to a large builder and say, we're going to tie up with you, which is something that our platform of facility management can actually give them, they would actually be able to tell you how much power they have been able to give you in units from renewable methods. Similarly, there's other small ones where if you can track how much plastic have you prevented from getting into landfills by measuring the amount of plastic collected at each of our sites, through that, there's very simple norms. If you Google it immediately, you'll know every kg of plastic or 100 kgs of plastic actually relates to 24 kgs of CO2 emissions prevented and about 6,000 odd liters of water that's saved by preventing it from going into landfill. So I think if we put in a sincere effort, it's not that difficult to quantify and track, what the gains are. I think where the industry would need to move is how do we compare whether client A versus client B, who has done more on sustainability? I think there it's still a little bit of a gray area, and that's what we should try and move towards, because that's when sort of SLAs and different benchmarks will be created within the industry to know for a facility of this size, this should be the amount of water that you use. This should be the amount of plastic that you can actually recycle. So I think if we put in an effort over there, we can actually track the gains.
Charles, you want to take something on that?
So if you were to look at the whole thing, the gamut and the perspective of a small housekeeping company like ours, and if I were to refer to an eco space of a building, a workspace, maybe 10 stories, whatever. And if you were to take the contribution of a housekeeping company within that, eco space, it would probably amount to 2% of sustainability contribution, right? Because 70 to 80% goes into the LEED certification, the building east-west layout and what have you, the chillers. And so out of that wee bit left, the F&B takes a little more space because they have the landfill to take care of. So we end up in the 2% of contribution, which gets magnified whenever we meet as if it is the largest contribution. Notwithstanding that, in that 2%, what is in our hands? What can we do? We try and do everything, of course. But what is in our control? In the 4 areas that that we can exploit our expertise or contribute towards sustainability or contribute towards a sustainable workspace or that ecosystem, we look at the energy conservation, right? That's the largest aspect. But how much of contribution can I do as a housekeeping company towards energy conservation in a multinational workspace? It's about the machines that we use, right? And if you actually work out, we did some homework. We consume, housekeeping company consumes atypically less than 0.3% of the energy in maintaining the property, because there's a whole lot of other plethora of equipment which is on, which is client owned. So in that 0.3% of electricity, or even less in some sites that we consume, we try and advise with modern technology equipment, maybe lesser charging, more working machines, which need not charge for 8 hours and work for 4 hours, something that can charge for 4 hours and work for 4 hours. But then the cost is prohibitive. So we always driven by, economic sustainability, which is always packaged with environmental sustainability. So it's a cost which forbids the client to ask us to deploy them. It's not that we cannot, we can, but then we don't have control over it. Now coming to the water conservation, yes, we can do. We do it, we have done it very successfully by our own means, in whichever way we could, also by advising some products like switching over from wet mop to damp mop, which saves about 35% of water. Educating or training our own employees to not to fill the bucket till 3/4, the ringer trolley 3/4, not double flush. These are all very natural, very simple, phenomena which we can actually exercise by training.
So I like 2 words that you used. One was measuring the quantum of the consumption or quantum of waste that's getting generated. I mean, both sides, right? I just wanted to understand, from anyone from the panel can speak, or even in the audience, I would want to keep this open, is that do we measure what all are the parameters from an environmental and from sustainable point of view that we really measure on an ongoing basis? It could be a daily, weekly, or a monthly exercise. Second, do we have a goal? At the end of a given period, we need to bring it down from A to A minus, or take it up from A to A plus, depending on what is it that we are trying to achieve. Because that's the only way, if you are able to measure and only we are able to monitor and have an objective being put at the end of the journey or the project, do we really know that we are really walking that path? So anyone can take it, even the panel. And I just want to understand from the audience, because that's when the discussions become more interesting. Otherwise, it becomes more of a, just a generic information that we are sharing. Anyone from the in the audience or from the panel?
Check with the audience first to engage them a little bit more.
I think you may have to give them the lead.
Yeah, is there anyone in the audience that I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that have views on this?
I'll tell you, when I was at Hong Kong airport, and Hong Kong airport, as soon as you enter at their corporate office, and you have a reception, and behind reception, there are 5 boards. That's their 5 core objective for the next 5 years. And one of the aspects that they are really responsible for is sustainability. And each activity, each whether it's water conservation, whether it is waste, responsible disposing, they had measured, quantified, and they had put the entire journey for the next 5 years. I think it's time for each FM operators. There are times we have the influence on to the principal. At times we may not have, but I think it's time for us to really bring that into our AOP plans, the annual plans, to say that this is a journey that we are going to walk. Provide, that's the only way the sustainable initiative can actually become, like how Diversey just now mentioned, Kiran mentioned, that each flush saving contributes about 1,200 liters saving in water. Like when I was the FM manager at Mumbai International Airport, we moved into the zero waterless urinal program. And you can imagine the number of flushes that would happen in an airport and the quantum of water that can actually be saved. So you want to take something, add on to this?
Yeah, so, just to kind of add on, I think one challenge that we are sort of facing, which we're still grappling amongst ourselves on how do we solve this, is what is the benchmark, right? How do we know if we've actually hit that correct target today? Basis
I'll give a benchmark for, let's say, a typical corporate office with a 12,000 square feet floor plate and X number of washrooms, and the kind of operations in a corporate office would be about 190 odd liters per associate per day would be the actual consumption. Okay, that's the thumb rule.
Yeah.
Now, how can we improve? Which factors can we moderate with is something that we'll have to probably study.
So keeping some of these thumb rules in mind, right? You mentioned earlier, what are we measuring? So if you look at any sort of FM or facility manager's daily report, there'll definitely be a couple of things out there, which is the day's energy consumption, the water consumption of the month so far, the diesel consumption. So how long has the DG been on? Now, these are already things for which we have data. Something that we've been trying to do, because we've not been able to come up with a common benchmark as an industry, saying that this is where we need to be. But what we've come and done is we've said, so we have a separate energy auditing team within our organization. And today they're working sort of as consultants. It started off with our own sites, and today they're working as consultants amongst many other sites. And what we're coming and saying is, look, we don't know where you should be exactly, but here's where you are. Let's take the last 1 year's data and say, this is your trend line. We will come in and invest whatever CapEx if required and put our money where our mouth is and say, we'll bring this energy down from 100 to whatever we bring it down to, because we don't know where the benchmark should be. Now, with whatever we bring it down to, let's take a percentage of that saving, right? So that way we're incentivized as well to try and save and reach a number which you can measure, saying that we've actually conserved this much. I think once we've done enough of that, whether it's with water or with energy, we'll actually somewhere in the next couple of years land up at benchmarks like you mentioned, and target saying that this is where we need to be. If you achieve this, you get that bonus. So this is part of your SLA or KPI.
Absolutely. Taking that at least. Audience, anyone? Okay, I move on. Adnan, what does our industry need to continue the momentum to sustain, and how do we track the gains of the sustainability? And or in your view, what are the steps being taken by the organizations, and what macro factors would accelerate this moment?
Yeah, thanks, Saji. So I would break up this question into 2 parts. So I'll take the first one is into what are the organizations doing to achieve sustainability. So I would say in a broader aspect, the organizations are trying to achieve net zero by balancing the carbon emitted or the carbon removed from the atmosphere. Uh, Actually, post-COVID, it's when it's all started, when people realized that they could work and live without air conditioning. And that's when they started switch off and open windows and look for windows. And, that's when it started. And if you look at what all has happened in the organizations, they have gone into sustainability and use of natural light. They have got away with the conventional lighting system, moved into LEDs, sensor-based lighting, installation of hand dryers, paperless. Got rid of plastics. Have understood that the impact of plastics to the environment and landfill, and started to get in industries that use printers, moved into recyclable refilling of cartridges, and various methods were used for formulation of the conservation of water, like everybody said over here. So it came in with water-free urinals, and then from the chemical part, we have seen that what was even told by Diversey is what we have also promoted is on the concentrate chemicals, where transporting it, it's easy to transport, you add to the environment, less of carbon footprints. And then of course the green energy, which has gone by has been adopted quite well with a lot of people moving into the solar panels. So it's kind of thing. And if I look at the and not to mention people have also at the beginning, it was to use microfiber was considered it was into a taboo. Now everybody is moving into that kind of sustainability. If I look into the macro factors that I would say is that the first part is to understand the government policy as to what as a country we want to achieve. If you look at the Prime Minister pledged that the country would cut its emissions to net zero by 2070. And by 2030, the country's projected carbon emissions would be reduced by 45% from 2005 levels. Now, and if you look into the on the broader aspect, if you look at the GDP, India is the 5th largest economy in the world, and it's expected to be 3rd by 2030. With this result, it will it'll ensure more of employment. With a lot of employment comes with a disposable income, and which will help in give us will help the economic boom. It'll help people to start using Go Green. If you, for example, if I'd say that organic food, which was a little bit of a taboo, that looking at the cost of any organic thing that nobody would use for it. With economy and a person's earnings going to go up in a span of time, organic would be the way of life. So it would be into the mainstream. Everybody would start, working on that. If you look at the BRS reporting, the business responsibility and sustainable reporting had to report the SEBI has made it a mandate for 22-23. And if you look at the overall green initiatives that the
Then you mentioned about microfiber and
Yeah.
procurement related to our own specific subject. And basically, if you could take this question, I'll ask this question to both of you. Same question on the mic, on the initiative at the macro factors would accelerate the momentum.
Right. C.V. Richard Ellis in 2019 set a baseline and a target to be net zero by 2040. And our targets were to reach there by 2035. So for scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, which are the direct emissions to your building and your transport that you are using, and of course the scope 2 emissions, which are the energy that you are procuring, our target was 68%. I'm happy to say that we are already 16% of the way down that road. And for scope 3 emissions, which in my opinion really deserve discussion here, which are the emissions that relate to the downstream service providers and the services that you take, that our target was 79%. And we are 41% of the way down that road.
Great.
Which is amazing.
I wanted to understand, working on same topic, is that when we have contracts which are input based, where more you put, that's where your margins lie. When do we really have any, can we really pay attention to the efficiency side of it? Because the lesser you put, the maybe, the gains are lesser. So that's why CBR is good.
So we live in a very interesting world. I was born in the facilities management industry when you had SLA-based contracts and you had manpower-based contracts. Now you have a mixture of both, because now our clients want SLAs and they want manpower to be measured. So I can tell you that all our contracts are SLA-based, and all of our contracts have a target for power, water, and waste, with heavy penalties if you miss on any of these three.
Incentivized, where our material and machinery procurement is incentivized month on month because we are able to bill it ahead. Right. So do we really focus on whether we use microfiber or whether we use the others, because the more quantity or a particular list of items sending into a facility is actually a gain for us?
See, Sajid, what's happening now is that while, yeah, we know the cost difference, but when we, so companies that we work and what we also promote is, sustaining sustainability, so that everybody knows that the impact, the largest savings when you use microfiber. At first, I remember that few years ago, when you speak of microfiber, they would say, what is the cost? And they would leave it. Like it's typical, like when anybody, even if he, I remember seeing a ad in the television that, one of the Indians goes to buy a cruise, and he first thing asks them, mein kitna deti hai? So that's a typical question that everybody would ask. But now that isn't. So sustainability has come in and everybody is into
Nice
that.
to hear that. Nice to hear that. I come to you, Ms. Angera, is that can technology and sustainability go hand in hand?
Okay, so I think we all agree that technology has been the biggest disruptor for us. And anything and everything we do is technology is involved. We heard about making a payment to an onion vendor through PhonePe, GPay. We do our transactions through various apps. So I think it would not be wrong to say that technology and sustainability goes hand in hand. Let's say, taking an example of our organizations today, if we want to know how energy efficient are we, or how the waste is getting managed, or what kind of recycled products we have, instead of having multiple Excel sheets, registers, we would like to see a dashboard. And I think that's what our clients would like to, they ask from us, can I get a dashboard? Take examples like converting manual checklist into QR code to track the cleanliness, recycling waste, recycling sanitary napkins, e-vehicles, you name it, and technology is in it for everything. So I think the best approach is to include sustainability in every common practices and adding technology to it, which will make it more viable and attractive as well.
Very well said, Ms. Angera. And I think what are products that we have noticed here, the packaging of the chemical dispensers and various machinery, the efficiency and the water consumption being lesser. All these are, I'm sure, is technological advancements. Continuing to you, Mr. Captain Weber, in your view, which macro factors or industry specific can slow down this momentum, if at all?
Yeah, so I think we talked about it. Most of us have covered the most of it, and I would shy away in taking numbers here, probably in this particular topic. I would talk about more factors because, again, as I say, at the end of the day, there is a human being responsible at an office, at a site, probably a production unit, production plant, whichever way you want to put it across, who's supposed to make sure that he's driving all of these initiatives that we are talking about. Now, to technology, you could say, but then who's at the back end probably is maintaining it, sustaining it. One level is that definitely you want the top level execs to come across, buy in this thing, and then subsequently it percolates down to the facility managers who are supposed to be responsibly taking care of it. So I think I've jotted down 3 or 4 of the points. Probably I'll take that and then dwell deep on this. One, in my view, is lack of knowledge, where I say that if without the actual skill sets required to run a particular program over sustainability, if that goes missing, or if that has not been the primary factor to before we initiate or we start looking at getting it implemented into our facilities, if that lack of knowledge has not been there, we always say that probably a wrong word to use, but then it dies its own death beyond a certain point, because you see that end of the day, you are making someone as a facility manager being responsibly taking care of it. He doesn't have the know-how or the knowledge. He has been forced to probably manage that, not able to give a good result, and at the end of the day, we start shoving it across into some of the downside carpets of it. The second would be the lack of senior management commitment. If today somebody looks at to drive sustainability within premises, and I think we decided that we'll keep it amongst the facility vertical because most of us are responsible for that. Now, if the senior management doesn't have the understanding, I won't say the understanding completely, they know actually, but then the time, energy, or the efficiency from their own side to probably look at how the deliveries are supposed to happen and how to track it across. Now, if you say the apps that are going to be operational at your sites, now who's the one at the back end probably taking care of it, that while this is what we are doing, we discussed, Raghav actually touched upon it in a very clear tone, that these are the numbers that we are achieving. These are the factors that we are driving. Now, is there someone at the facility background who's actually making every one of us responsible that we should do it and then track it, measure it, and then keep changing over it? So I think that becomes the second one of it. Then time and financial constraint. Let's come back to maybe the most, the biggest elephant, if we have to say. Now, if the facility manager who has been bestowed with doesn't have the buy-in to come across from the management, he is not able to give across his full-fledged time to make sure that he's driving it the best effective manner. And then it's same way goes to the financial way also. If the senior management, the team responsible is not able to give the exact output, the finance teams and our CFOs and probably the local finance people would not be that much interested to possibly take this ahead and forward. Lastly, I would say lack of capability. Now, capability actually refers here is the lack of capacity that we have. Now, with the same setup that we have today, we look at implementing a certain level of technology or sustainability programs inside the offices. We see that if I look at it, or probably if I throw this back to each one of us, everyone is related to the facility industry more often. So if I know that this facility requires 20 people, I'm sure we are running it with 16, 15, 14. We can go down, we can definitely not go up. Now with those 14, 15 people, let's say against a 20, you are putting across a new initiative, which actually wants a lot of driving to come across, a lot of measurements to be done, data facts to be known across. But then if the individual himself is not capable enough or probably has the capacity, how to drive it further, it becomes a challenge for each one of us.
What I understand is the focus and the fact whether we really have the bandwidth are the only hindrances to actually drive this sustainable initiative, is what I hear from you.
So I think these are the starting factors. Now, once we start moving ahead, now if I see that the technology, once it is implemented, is being used in the best way, then industry-wise, you would want to make certain changes because my industry behaves in a certain way. Then I would want this common technology background to probably have my own flavor of 5%, 10% change to be implemented. But I say that if we have to start off and reach to that extent where we say that at industry level, how much change I should initiate, I think the first impetus that are we each one of us sitting on that particular elephant and making sure that we are able to ride it becomes the first impetus, and then subsequently all the factors come in.
Great. So I think it's a lovely input, Captain Vaibhav. And we are in the hub of corporate offices at Bangalore. Just one statistics for all our consumption is that 75% of the waste that is generated in a corporate office is recyclable. And unfortunately, only 7.5% of the same reach the recycling units. Maybe we have inadequate recycling units, or we are not segregating and sending it across to these plants. Something to ponder over. And with these lovely thoughts, I will take one or two questions. And you have been a lovely panel. And let me take a question, one or two, and then we wind up this discussion. One or two questions, please. No, I think we have been very clear or very boring. Either ways. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
There is one.
One question. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. So my question would be, anybody from the panel could answer. So what is the role you see procurement plays in scope 3 emission reduction? And do you think that procurement plays an important role? So maybe Adnan or Colonel Charles or Raghav, anybody can take that.
Chanchal, I feel now having, dealt with you and likewise so many procurement people from various clients. So it is my personal opinion that the expectations of the client or the senior leadership, when we sit through a QBR, I'm not referring to only JLL, with other clients also, is way too high, right? It's about our quantification, our contribution, and we have gone through that and we have done that. But then to implement, there has to be a connect between the leadership, which defines that a service provider has to be sustainable, and the procurement. I feel there's a little disconnect there, because when you beat down the costs, you're beating down the whole concept of sustainability, right? From a lithium-ion battery that I could provide, I go to a secondary lead-acid battery, just because the client was cost-cutting. So I think economic sustainability, which I think is driven by the procurement, has to be linked to environmental sustainability. So if that disconnect is patched, probably we'll be on the right path. Otherwise, we'll just be grappling around everything and, like having panels like this and discussing how to go forward.
Charles spoke from his heart now.
Yeah, so I think, so I believe I just wanted to add what he just said. And I think that was the same thing that I was discussing. See, if the sync is not there, see, everyone is running with their own set of KRAs. I have to manage costs, I have to cut down on the cost. The management wants the sustainability to be there in the office. The procurement guy has only one initiative in his entire thing, that if last year was 100 rupees, this time it has to be 95 rupees. And if it is the same vendor, then probably 90 rupees. Now, if all of this has to be put together, a lot of times we discuss that, should we also put this as a separate project cost, which could be also a solution. So if you say that if it's an initiative that the company is playing around with, and then they want this thing to be sustainable while they are running these projects, I think it could be a separate cost also put together. Because if it is the same person, and not to be blamed, I think we work very closely with the finance. We have no offense to any one of us, please, the procurement, the finance, and each one of us. I think we have our own set of KRAs and the other things, and probably it's an August audience. I don't want to use certain words that we all go through every day. We have our own dash to take care of. So while we have to probably sustain that, a common directive, if there is a free hand at a certain level that we get from the management also, that yes, this is an initiative that we all are buying in for. So if there is an extra cost, and not at the cost of cost, possibly at the cost of impact that is going to create after a certain time, is what we should look forward to.
We all have missed his slide, cost to value.
Yeah, cost to value, exactly.
So I think the world is moving far ahead than probably we are imagining it. Time is coming when companies will source only from organizations that are sustainable, the products that are sustainable, and services that are sustainable. Without procurement, it's impossible to do that. And probably, you will see the people who are asking you questions are also having intention that very soon the pressure is coming on all of us, that the material we source and where is the source of that material and how is that made and what's the process that is made and who are the people who are making it? Are we affecting this environment in that place? Guys, we got to think very, very far. It's not about the bill. It's about sustainability. So procurement is mandatory layer that has to be crossed to be able to make anything sustainable in the future. It's coming.
Great. Chanchal, I would want to pose a question back at you, if you don't mind. Is that as a procurer, as a purchaser, as a buyer, how much value would you give to a sustainable a company or an organization, which is exactly what Mr. Babji has said, and how much of a leverage would they have in bagging that order? Commercials being kept aside.
Yeah, so my question. Yeah. From that perspective, sorry. So my question was on that line, that how is your procurement ready? How are you guys evolving with your procurement team? It was not about the procurement from the client side. It was more about the service providers procurement. How ready are they? Have they thought through this? Are they aware? How much of, so another point is, so we try to run workshops. We have had, certain workshops. We are working on certain concepts that we are developing, wherein we are, and procurement is actually taking the lead, we work on something called green scope for cleaning, which is one of its, kind, which we are developing, where I think one of the partners, some of you must have, I think there was a questionnaire which was sent out to all. So we are working on that. So yes, there's a lot that procurement is doing, and you would see that this would not come at a cost. This would become the, standard. So right now we talk about normal way of cleaning, and then there is a sustainable way of cleaning. But we want to move away from that. There would be only one way of delivering services, right? So my question was that how ready your procurement teams are, as a service provider to the likes of all the IPCs or the clients directly. So that was my question.
So I think just to respond on all our behalfs, I think the fact that we have having more such events where we are able to become more conscious and sensitive about the same. And I think we are all taking back to our own respective offices and our organizations to say that we probably need to further refine and improve our own internal processes. We may not have reached there today. Most of us may not have. Most of us may not have.
Yeah, Chanchal, I would again like to answer your question. So your question is very valid. Right from the time, we were made to look very small. Ajit sir is not here. He used to, bully me down as to how sustainable are you? What's your carbon footprint? What do you bring to the table? So this made us, this kick-started us, and we started working. Like, we addressed everything that you said. We have had all our vendors who supply us the materials, the expendables, the cleaning materials, all of which have plastic, either handle or the clip or whatever. We have reviewed all of them, and most of them were non-biodegradable. Out of the 7 grades of plastic, they were in that maybe 7th or 8th, which wouldn't degrade. So we have changed those products. We have changed whatever we could do from non-degradable to semi-degradable or recyclable. We have done that homework. We have also changed our uniform. Like I keep mentioning, and people ask me, okay, you quantify it. We had soles of our safety shoes, which we realized were of PVC, which was non-degradable or semi-degradable. We sat down with a couple of vendors, and then we changed the soles of the shoes to fully degradable or recyclable. And now that is 5,000 plus 10,000 boots on ground. Yes, so we have done that, and we are doing that. But where we get stuck was my first answer.
I think it's good to hear this, and I think that answers to the question. Winding up this entire conversation, what I would have to say is see good and see sustainable. Thank you.
So I would like to thank all our panelists and special thanks to our moderator, Mr. Sadi Sebastian. I request Mr. Anil Kumar Nair, Marketing Director, to please come up on stage and felicitate our panelists and our moderator. Big round of applause. Yeah. Now is the time to have our next key note speaker for the evening. This gentleman has set multiple benchmarks when it comes to managing complex facility management operations. The wide range of expertise that he possesses, like P&L management, financial budgeting, people management, and customer service, truly set him apart as a very skilled individual. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for none other than Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, Chief Operating Officer, DTSS.
That was a wonderful introduction, Vishnu. Thank you so much for that. It's always been a learning moment with Mr. Babji. You know, we have had these kind of opportunities. It was a very insightful, and thank you for showing us the path that, you know, FM industry is a good career for us actually. And I extend my compliments to the panel. It was very too much engaging over there, and I picked up some of the notes over there. Great work done, please. So I think, you know, when Mr. Babji spoke about, you know, two of the educated people in terms of the facility management, one was from the hospitality industry and one was from the army background. But he forgot that he's an engineer also, and a lot of engineers also contribute to the facility management. So It's been around, almost a couple of years that we have been going around and we have been talking about sustainability. Then it moved to ESG. And when I go back, I have been an engineer, I would say that, into construction. And the first thing when I started my career, the only sustainable thing which we started was with adding fly ash to the cement. There was no any kind of restrictions on the amount of water which we would waste over there. But it was saying that we need to add 25% of fly ash to the cement. That was because only the cost was playing a big role over there. And almost half of my career, I've been into construction. And we never bothered actually at that time how the buildings were going to be maintained or cleaned. And I think, the circle took around and it pushed me into an industry after almost half of my career to go and maintain those buildings. All the difficulties which I created for the facility management one, that was a wonderful video actually. And I could relate myself, that at least, 50,000 people, I would have put them into such kind of difficulties. And when I came into facility management, actually, housekeeping facility management was a big name, but it was something which we would never touch. The people from the projects, building a lot of big constructions, of industries and all these things, and facility management people would not even relate with us or come have an opportunity to meet with them. So when I came into facility management, we talked big things, and then slowly I realized that it is nothing but housekeeping. Okay, it's all about maintaining and equipping. Just maintaining the building, and I would take this opportunity. In fact, I still a little bit, I'm struggling with what is R2, R1, R6, R7. I keep mixing the numbers over there and all. But I think, I've got my colleague over here, Cyril, which I'll take this opportunity. He's been a good mentor for me in housekeeping, and I've learned everything from him in the housekeeping part of it. Now with this ESG part of it, when I went through, I was always wondering, there are clients actually who are setting up buildings. There are IPCs who are consultants and advisors to the clients. And there are a lot of architects and consultants who are talking about sustainability, who are talking about eco-friendly products, all these things. And then we were thinking about where are we going to position in this ESG drive? So one thing which came to our mind is saying that for all these things, the behavior matters a lot. Behavior of the people who are working in the various facilities, in various client premises and all. And if their behavior is not changed, I would go back and we encountered one situation where, we were maintaining a hospital and one of the body part, which was supposed to be reharnessed, went into a garbage bag. So these kind of issues which we deal with, these are the behavioral issues which are there. The blood which spills over there, how do they manage that blood stream? We speak, then in English, we talk about something biohazardous waste. The housekeeping janitor doesn't know that it's a biohazardous waste over there. So then I felt that, that having 50,000 employees in the company, employing almost 2,000 people every month on month, and with the attrition or whatever is around 1,000 to 2,000 people adding month on month on that. On the ESG part of it, so when we discuss this with Kiran, in fact, Kiran has been pushing a lot for me to come and have a discussion on this. So thank you, Diversey, for having me for this opportunity. So we spoke about in the ESG part of it, there's a lot of discussion. Government is going to take care of the G part of it. Consultants, IPCs, and everybody, clients would take care of the E part of it. I think we play a big significant role in the S part of it. So S stands for what? Actually, the social part of it. So we employ a lot of people from various different, I would say geography, different castes, communities, religions, all sorts of things, different backgrounds. So it becomes a very complex situation. So I think, Kiran mentioned a very valid point saying that, it's very simple that you start cleaning a premise with a broom, but it becomes very complex when you start adding various other things on that. So I'm just trying to put a kind of a thought into your minds that how S is going to play very significantly over here. Adnan spoke during the in his panel discussion about the growth story for India. Now, while this is, I'm just bringing into here, everybody's aware of it. I understand that, most of you have done your research. You're well acquainted with what's happening in the world, what's happening in the country. But, right now we are 3.5 trillion economy. It will go up to 5 trillion by 2030. And we take a lot of pride from a, fifth largest economy. We probably will become third largest economy. And this brings a little bit of a complex situation for us because annual GDP is going to grow at the rate of 6%. We just keep that in the mind for the moment. Now, FM industry, we all know that it's going to grow. I just bring your attention to the last line over here. While the GDP is going to grow at the rate of 6%, FM industry is going to grow. This could be the forecast and somebody would have some different figures over here, but on an average, it's going to grow at the rate of 24% year on year. Another thing, I think, 2 weeks back, Mr. Sandeep Sethi had presented in one of the forums. He spoke about the real estate, how it's going to boom over here. I mean, Saji was there with me over there in that. And if you have a quick glance at it here, I think, it's going to be 4 times what we are going to talk. From 200 billion, it's going to be around 1 trillion, and it's going to be contributing around 17%, 13% to the GDP over there. So we see a massive opportunity over here in the next 5 years. Probably the demand for facility management is going to be 4-fold. And facility management is going to grow at the rate of 24%. I bring this S factor over here. The world population has touched 8 billion, and India has surpassed, a lot of things have happened in the last year. During this year, we have touched 1.4 billion, surpassing China. That's where, we see a big opportunity for us over here, that, the workforce will be available for us. The growth catalyst, if I have to put it in place, is the demographic dividend over here. I mean, I just bring a graph over to your notice saying that, the employable workforce, which is there between, 25 to 64 or 15 to 64, will peak by 2044. And that's the opportunity which we are going to have. So there would be a lot of population which will be available. And this could be from various other geographies or whatever, there could be, we can talk about urbanization, mass movement from, rural areas to urban areas, and all these things can happen. So we just park that discussion around over there. Just to think about it, the median age for India is 28, which is far better than the remaining countries in the globe, the big ones like China, USA, and all these things. So we are in that very sweet spot time now, where 28% is the median age. 64 is the age where, I think, people would not be employable or anything which is less than 15 years, or maybe we can take as 18 years over there. Quickly, I will do a little bit of a comparison between the growth story of Japan, comparing it with India. After the World War II, immediately, Japan was completely devastated, but they had that advantage of the demographic dividend. They got together. I think all the big economists, they got together and they tried to align in where, what kind of investments have to be happened. So if you look at on the first graph, you had Japan, which started getting the benefit of demographic dividend. It was in 1964. It went on till 2004. They had a demographic dividend opportunity for 40 years. And I just bring your attention to India. India started having the benefit of demographic dividend in 2005, and it will go up to 2055. So we have got a 50-year window, out of which around 20 years is gone by. So 30 years is left, in which becomes an opportunity for us for the FM industry over here. Little bit getting into the details of it, just bringing in an attention over here on the red bordered part of it. If you look at in 1964 for Japan, you had a high base of people who are young and very low base of people who are there in above 65 years over there, the population which we could call it of over. From there, when it moved to 2004, you can see that in the between, the employable base, it became significantly big over there. And then 2023, it completely tapered down. If you see, the dependents have become more over there. So taking this as a cue and the amount of what we say economy, the fund infusion, all that which happened, I think India is also similarly poised, but it has been poised from 2005. Taking this again as a comparison for this, 2000, we have very less people who are aged people and very less people who are, I would say that, bigger base in people who are less than 14 years. As we gradually move to 2023, we see the employable working class community, the population has increased significantly in 2023. And as it goes in 2025, 55, the working class community is at the most peak, and from there it will start tapering. Now, extrapolating this particular information, I just bring it two points over here, that there are 3 sectors actually which contribute to the GDP. One is your agriculture, fisheries, and mining and all that thing. Then you have the manufacturing, and then you have the services sector. So if you look at services sector in 2011, from 50% on almost 49.4 has grown to 59.9. And then looking at the distribution of workforce, 27.5% has been deployed against the 49.4 in the service sector. And currently it is 30.7. So there is a big gap of almost 23 to 24% of demand and supply gap. Today, most of you are encountering shortage of manpower, shortage of manpower, shortage of manpower. So I bring one simple idea to the thought that is FM industry for the blue collar employees a preferable job opportunity. If you see in the services sector, though it is growing, but I think we are still encountering the manpower crunch over there. So opportunities which I feel you have a bigger, larger base of people, increased workforce participation right from 2005, we will be encountering up to 2055. Then there will be a rise in women workforce. Rapid urbanization will happen. Growth of aspirational class. Everybody would want salaries more than the minimum wages. I think, you know, what we spoke about, some sustainability, affordability and all that. So growth of aspirational class will increase, and this will be what we see driving the economic growth. The disaster or the bottlenecks which we are talking about. Now, while we have this as an opportunity, the informal nature of the economy, that is what low wages or what we call it as minimum wages. And then again, what is not a preferred employer. FM is still not a preferred employer. It's just an option at this point of time. Then we talk about low labor participation rate. You know, we are just looking for male manpower. In fact, you know, during our various discussions with clients, we talk about a male and female manpower ratio. They want 60% or 70% of male and 20 or 30% of female employees. Then asymmetric in demography. You can talk about, you know, various asymmetries are there in terms of whether you're taking people from this region or that region, whether they are from the migrant employees or they are from the rural employees, or then in terms of there is a big deficit of the skills in the labor force. And if we don't address all these issues, it will lead to the demographic disaster. Here we have an opportunity. We need to work out some processes to ensure that this doesn't turn into a demographic disaster. Bottlenecks. Below that, if I just bring it to a notice, a little bit of a stats over here. Employees currently in India, population in India has 0.73 billion in male, and in female, we got 0.68 billion. Employed is 67% of male is employed and female is 30% employed. So I think there will be a less opportunity for the male, more opportunity for the female. So are we a little bit open for this? So that's where I'm thinking that, you know, that S factor in terms of diversity, inclusivity, we probably will be able to address this gap between the demand and supply. Now, this is going to be the big driver for us. I think we discussed saying that by 2070, we'll become a net zero country. We'll have major policies which will be built on ESG framework. And then there will be sustainable buildings. We'll have waste minimization, clean production and product life cycle, which we'll be talking about. So ESG will be the growth propeller for us. Like, I think Mr. Babji said that, you know, that every client will only prefer a person who is what is a sustainable and what is a certified, whether they are going to be ESG compliant or not. So all our frameworks are going to revolve around ESG. So there are 4 things which I think that, you know, which will help us out to get aligned ourselves to the ESG framework. One is about job creation. Now, what is this job creation? Is about, suppose we are going to hire a janitor. Is he going to adapt to the technology? Is he going to adapt to the eco-friendly chemicals? Is he going to adapt to this tools and tackles? So the job creation which is going to happen is not going to be a simple housekeeping, but a smart housekeeping person. So job creation for the blue collar people have to be smart job creations. Then policy reforms, obviously we are talking about various things, you know. I think gone are those days, you know, when I started my career in facility management, I think the first ask was, you know, give me a warm body in uniform. After that, it came saying that please pay the PF, please pay the ESI. From there, it has gone to up to a level where, you know, you are not even tolerating a slightest of a deviation of a compliance over there. Now we are talking about, you know, maybe the new code will get kicking. Gratuity comes into place. And then there is a, when we talk to various people, they are talking about not minimum wages, they're talking about fair wages now. So there is a differentiation which is happening between minimum wages and fair wages. So then about the proper education, obviously, I think, you know, 7th pass or 8th pass, when we talk to a lot of pharmaceutical companies, they are no longer preferring people in janitorial services who are from 7th pass or 8th pass. They want 10th pass because they have to follow an SOP work. Skill development, I think, you know, there's a lot of focus which has to happen on the skill development. And I would, in the further slides, I will just take you through that skill development opportunity. But these are the 4 things I feel that, you know, that in the S factor, we should be able to think around it. Just to draw your attention, I would just bring to your notice about the local community relationship. If you have to hire people from various rural areas, and I think with the hybrid and all these things coming up in place, a lot of clients are moving to tier 2, tier 3 cities also. So those areas we have an opportunity, but we need to get connected with, and organizations like us, actually, I would say that we have to get connected with the local communities. Training and education, labor relationship, job creation, diversity and inclusivity and equity, occupational health, and this is the framework what we are thinking about the S factor. Obviously, just I can skip this one, but we can talk about, common knowledge. In fact, one of the things when we were in the Clean India show last week, Diversey had brought one product, actually it picked up the mind very well, so they have the smart doors. I don't know whether you have seen that, which was in their presentation, Kiran's presentation, which was there. It was so smartly, I would say, innovated. It has brought down too much of a pain, but I don't think that, that they are able to build it in such a way a janitor can easily work out, and, it's a beautiful, beautiful solutions, and compliments to Diversey for really working out that smart doors can actually. It's really going to help us out. So with this particular such kind of innovation, I think, while we talk about a lot of robotic solutions are there, so this all adoption has to happen for a normal, simple janitor staff which we employ. What we do, I will just give you a little bit of a synopsis, what we do in our organization, empowering people in terms of compliances, in terms of policies, in terms of reforms. We have evolved at an application in which an employee can download his payslips, PF and everything. That gives a very sense of security for an employee. We found that it has been so good. So that's a Mitra application. And then we obviously, linking it with the ESG part of it, you have a document in which you carry out what you call the training evaluation, attendance and everything that's been taken off. There is a content which is getting pushed into the smartphones, into the laptops and all these things. In fact, we would struggle to reach out to all remote areas and everywhere for conducting a training. And we would hardly be able to do 1.5 hour or 1 hour of training per month to every employee. And we've been able to scale this up to 3. So that's where I'm talking about the skilling part of it. We have been able to resolve it over here. Now, when we talk about making it a preferred employment opportunity, FM industry is a preferred employment opportunity. We have got some programs like Arise, where a janitor staff has an opportunity to become supervisors. We have been able to elevate 638 janitors as supervisors. Then in the UDAN program, we have got something where high performing supervisors get a chance to become facility executives. We have been able to elevate around 168 executives over there. And then in UDAN, we have one more UDAN as a program where we take it up for our executives to become back-end operations, So likewise, from a janitor to becoming a branch head or becoming a P&L holder, we have created a roadmap over there. And when we do a social connect, or a local community connect, we take up these people's, videos, live videos, we go and show it to them that from a janitor drawing some 10,000 or 11,000 rupees salary, he has got an opportunity to go up to 1 lakh rupee per month. But obviously that's a time frame over there. So that gives a kind of excitement for them to join the facility management as a employer for them. A quick case study. We are managing somewhere around 7 hospitals for this particular group, out of which I've just picked up for 3 hospitals. The problem statement along with this hospital was that they wanted to give the employment to the local community. And these are basically the tribal areas. So I had this opportunity to interact with all the tribal people over there. And we had first ambition that we have to employ 90% of the female workers. So when we met the tribal people, actually, honestly, I would say that when you meet them up, they would not know how to dress. They would not know how to read and write. And never in their lives, they've come out of their villages over there. For the first time when they were getting employed over here, they came in a bus, they came in a van. So these are the opportunities in the local community which we went over there. So there was a lot of insecurity. We built it over here. So we are doing currently now, we started this particular hospital operations in 2016. We continue to do 3 locations, which I'm giving as a case study. Footfalls, somewhere roughly around 11,500 patients. They come 11,500 patients, or along with them, the relatives, they come around per day. Patients per day are around 5,000 and number of beds are 900 beds, what we manage within these 3 hospitals. Site attrition is less than 3%. Why? Because, it's so the tribal community will never find an employment opportunity out of this particular thing. So there's less than 3%. And I would say that compared to an average rate of around 20%. So these are the, I think this is not visible for you, but I think, these are the three places, Jharkhand and Orissa. These are the two places, Jharsuguda and Jona. Now, these are the works which are happening. You have this lady who is cleaning all the HVAC. In fact, she's a HVAC operator also. She's a ITI by profession. Then we have the one who is handling lady who is handling all the equipments. We have valet drivers over here. They handle so many numbers of cars which come in. They take the car, they park it over there. They also get into a lot of issues, in terms of what is like damaging the cars and all, but they very well handle those issues over there. We have security guards. Then we have patient handlers. And you can see over here, which we talk about ESG over here in terms of the waste management, which they do it very fantastically. So this is a very well evolved, I would say, a solution in terms of hiring women workforce, which we can address with diversity and inclusivity, as well as EPT over there. We can talk about scientific way of skilling them, a local social connect. We can talk about all the structures and processes which can be built into that particular facility. There are obviously challenges over here. While we went into these kind of communities, a recent past, what happened is we went into a place where we are starting a hospital now. Now there is a issue which has come over there about the Bodo land. Now Bodo land is a terrorist outfit or a militant outfit, pardon me. It's a militant outfit. And they want us to take all the employees who are rehabilitated militants. Now we have never encountered this kind of a situation. It's a requirement of 250 people. But the amount of, it's going on, discussions are going on for 1 month. And people rise up in this conversation and they say that they will chop your head off if you don't take these people. From there, we have slowly come to a place where, we are working out a solution saying that we'll put a qualification criteria. If they are employable, we'll take it like that. But, at one end, we have got a KPI to deliver. At the other end, we've got the social connect. Then this ESG part of it, which comes in over there. My one point about is that when we talk about all these 4 or 5 things, what we feel burdened with, a responsibility burdened with, is saying that FM industry has to be a preferable employer. Otherwise, all things what we are talking about, people will come and work for 3 months and 4 months and 2 months. After that, they will leave. So if he has to continue for 20 years or 25 years, obviously we'll have some other financial issues like gratuity cost, this cost and that cost. But obviously, if you want to have quality, you need to retain people. And I think with this, we will be able to address. So we as an organization, while E part and G part, we find that, there's a lot of buzzword which is happening on this. We see when I will talk about, green gas emissions. I don't know, a facility management company and then down the chain, of housekeeping company, how much they can contribute to it. With all these things, I think we as an organization, we are completely focused for this. And I would request you, all our clients, actually, half of them would be our clients, would please help us to partner in this endeavor. Thank you. This is from me.
Thank you so much, sir, for adding the K and the I factor to this evening, which is the knowledge and the information factor. Thank you so much. I would like to request Mr. Karel Gorp, Vice President, Marketing Emerging Markets, to please come on stage and felicitate our keynote speaker for the evening, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar. A big round of applause. Now is the time to have the next round of panel discussion. And I'm sure this topic is going to enlighten our knowledge further on the business aspect of the industry. The topic is cost plus versus output-based structure. Which way forward for the FM industry? Now, without further ado, I would like to invite our esteemed panelists on stage. So a big round of applause for Mr. Ranjit Kuti, Head of Sales, DLL. Mr. Prasanna Shastri, Managing Director, Top Line Business. Mr. Nilesh Kanakraj, Senior Vice President and Head, 1SIS. Ms. Malini Lobo, Head General Purchase, Infosys. Mr. Anil Kumar Patil, Assistant Vice President, Procurement and Contracts, Bangalore International Airport Limited. I would also like to invite the moderator for the panel discussion, Ms. Ashwini, Country Head, TCFM. Stage is your man.
Of you, and I think we are the last in the evening, so we have to ensure that we finish on time because we will be between you and the dinner outside. Without taking much further, I think we had quite a speaker and discussion for the evening, and the FM industry that has been evolving in the last 20 years plus. And most of us in this have been in this industry, and we have seen it evolve for them, drastic changes last 4 to 5 years. And I'm sure we all put at post pandemic, it has been quite different for all of us here. But I think the assurance that we got from Mr. Abji that we are in the right industry. The GDP that we have is just in India, it's 3%. And of course, like Mr. Sanjeev said, that for sure in next 5 years, year on year, annually we should be growing by 24%. That's really encouraging. And with the growth rate from 12.5 CAGR in next 5 years. The need has increased more than ever for the service industry as an organization for outsourcing and the building automation. Basically, I think because of the rapid organization that is happening with us, with that we also have movement in the construction sector, and of course there is an emphasis on green buildings that we are looking at. And last but not the least, I think we are looking at is the awareness that has been skills, how it really improves for the corporates if they really emphasize the non-core activities and focus their activities. So with that, I think I'd like to look at one more thing, which is the focus. Today, the focus of our client has been increased for operational excellence. We are also looking at the DNI, the ESG, and the cost optimization. The industry is looking at what do we get the right skill them and retain them on one hand. On the other hand, the challenge is, say, what we have to look at is the increase of our client requirements in reaching out to their operational efficiencies that they are looking at, and the cost being cost effective. Keeping all this in mind, I think we have a very interesting topic today, which is on cost plus and the output based model. And I think most of us spoke about the elephant, but I think we have been brave enough to bring the elephant in this room and to talk about this topic, which maybe I would like to warn you a bit that it may be a more debatable topic also. So with that, I would like to talk to my eminent panelists and ask them from their industry experience few questions and how they have been able to evolve over the years on these two models. So my first question is to Ranjit.
So today we are moving, or rather we are intending to move to an SLA based or an output based contract, but still we have still a lot of contract which are on input based. So what do you think are the pros and cons of this?
Thank you for that question. The way I see it, I wouldn't say it's pros and cons. It's more attributes of a model that you have. And you have to link that attributes to what the client wants. If the client wants transparency, for example, which is very common in a cost plus contract, then if he wants transparency, if you want something which is easy to administer, those are things that he will shift the moment to a cost plus contract. If you want something where there is the other things is the risk is completely with the client in a cost plus contract. Whereas in any other model, you might transfer the risk to the vendor. So you have to look at it from those elements before you actually decide on what model is it you go into. I hope I've answered that question.
I think yes, from your point of view, but I would also like to extend this question to Malini because she comes from the other side. What do you think are the pros and cons?
So what we feel is the cost plus model has been the conventional one that we have been following, and it's been a little complacent because it works for us and we feel what we have done is best in the industry. While today, like some of them have given enlightenment that FM is not anymore housekeeping, but a lot more things. I think output based would be a better model. But yeah, there's a long way to go because it's not just people, it's technology. It is also bringing in efficiency both in all frames like HVAC or MEP. There's specialists in every field that comes up. So I feel maybe it's a mixed form of approach that we would do. Maybe the investment would be from the organization while the expertise could come from the FM, and maybe long-term would be the whole thing could come as an output model.
Thank you. I think that was very encouraging to hear from you. My next question is to Anil. That last maybe around 5 years or so, we have the advent of SLA, an output-based contract. What are your views on the same?
Good evening, one and all, for having me here today. See, as you said rightly, the last 5 to 8 years, SLA-based and output-based contracts are in existence and becoming very popular and very commonly used in many industries. So this desire has come, it's from the need of the business where they want to have they want to ensure the quality parameters, performance standards, all that they want to be part of the contract so that they can get output from the service providers. So this has led to this, I believe, and this is going to be continuing trend for the coming years. So SLA contracts, if I take one by one, SLA contracts are advantageous to both service provider as well as the customer or the client. So it has the clarity. SLA contract defines very clearly, outlines it, scope of services, performance parameters, quality standards, and the expectation of the clients. Based on that, the service provider would be bidding for it, winning the contract, and will be executing. So it becomes a very clear document, and expectation of the client will be mentioned very clearly. So with that, I think the contract and the execution will become very clear. And SLAs are not that very stringent. These are all so detailed. SLAs have been evolving day by day. While we have SLAs, what it was last year is getting detailed and getting further fine-tuned. So these are all very dynamic in nature and which are discussed between the client and the service provider and accepted both sides. So these are all evolving. I think one way is good to have it. But then when it comes to the output based contracts, so it all depends, which contract is applicable where and all. Based on the situation, it will be deciding. So output based contract is the best part of this is, it gives a free hand for the innovation. The service providers are given a target to achieve and they are free to decide how they want to achieve it and give the output to the client. So output based contract is measuring the output, not the input, which is a conventional method of measuring the contracts. Earlier what you're putting in is also being measured, which is not the case in this case. So I believe this trend is going to continue for coming years and both have its advantages and disadvantages, is I believe. Thank you.
Sure. So if I may ask you, leading question to this is that one of the concerns that, from the service provider point of view, if I ask you, is that the output-based contracts are there, but at the same time, there is still a headcount. I think Mr. Basil from CBRE had picked up this point. So I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on this and how do you think we can address this?
See, I represent procurement. I have a lot of fight. I mean, many of the people know here. I fight internally within our teams. While you mention the SLA and output in the part of the contract, why your headcount is being mentioned part of the contract? I oppose it. But everybody has their requirement. We are trying to minimize it. We are trying to give certain leverage in the minimum headcounts. We say if you were asking for 100, give 90 and give the 10 as a kind of leeway to the service provider, and you increase the penalties for non-performance, but don't count the head and put the extra penalties. So in fact, after award of contract, we have relaxed certain of the relaxation, the penalties and other things to headcount and other things, but it goes hand in hand, and very difficult to convince the end user not to put the headcounts, but we are trying on that. I think way forward it will be coming up. Thank you.
I think that's very encouraging, and a lot of my colleagues sitting here will be very happy to hear that procurement is talking this language. So I'm sure. My next question is to Nilesh. You have been a part of FM for a very long time, and what, according to you, are the benefits of an SLA contract? Do you think, how does it work? And how do you think we can help migrate our clients to become an SLA wherever it is an input-based or headcount-based contract?
Sure. Anil, you're a blessing to FM companies. You continue to be that there. Basically, a few points in terms of advantages of an SLA model. Firstly, I think the most important thing is a paradigm shift in a relationship between a service partner and a client. I think when you get into an SLA or an output-based model, you actually transition from a transactional relationship to more of a strategic partnership, right? Where the client gets what he wants, and the service provider also benefits from it in terms of raising the bar in terms of the services, and also have a leeway or a flexibility in terms of delivering services. The second point is, more importantly for the client, I think a client releases the bandwidth for the client to focus on more important issues. Today, what happens is when you're typically in an input-based model, your focus is on how many manpower on site, what are the materials which have come in, what are the machineries which are down, right? You're always looking at the exception, right? But when you actually move into an output-based model, I think it releases the bandwidth of a client to focus on more strategic things. For him, what is his important thing is to make the workplace a better environment for his associates or for employees. So when you get into an output-based model, I think he's able to focus. Today we talk about ESG. Tell me honestly, how many FMs are able to focus their time on ESG? Because all the time, I think you're spending time in terms of measuring the input which comes in, right? The third point is typically in terms of, performance. I think it's a what you call as performance guaranteed. We have very clear metrics. You have a dashboard, which gives you, metrics in terms of performance. The KPIs are driven. So it's more of an exception-based reporting mechanism which you operate on, right? So that's something which is very important in today's business. Fourthly, technology. I think today, when you get into an output-based model, you bring in a lot of mechanization, bring in robotics in terms of cleaning, you bring in dashboards, QR code checklists. So there is a lot of innovation which comes, because as a service partner, for me, I know what my KPIs are, and it's important for me to deliver them. And I can probably play around with whatever innovations I want to ensure that I deliver superior service to the client. That's simple, in fact.
That was very elaborate and I think well said, Nilesh. But I also want to ask Ranjit, do you agree to what Nilesh says, or do you have a different view on this?
A slightly different view. From my perspective, an SLA today is there in an input-based contract or an output-based contract, irrespective of the contract. I don't see a situation, I don't think I have in JLL any contracts where you don't have an SLA. What is different is the commercial model. A cost plus is a commercial model in which you build the client, and that comes at the end stage. First, you define the scope, then the SLAs, and then you decide, okay, do I need transparency? Do I need flexibility? Then you go in for a cost plus, or do I want cost certainty? if I want cost certainty, if I want to transfer most of my risk onto my vendor, then I go for an output-based contract and say the risk is yours. That's what defines the differentiates between a cost plus and an output-based contract.
So if I may ask you one more question related to this is that the penalties that are charged, okay, are mostly on the total, instead of having it on the management fees, are mostly on the total contract. So what is your suggestion? How do you address, because I'm sure the FM fraternity will have this in
It
their
has to
mind.
be linked to the appetite of that vendor and the certainty that he has on what his cost is. If I'm sure about what my cost built up is, and if I'm sure of what I can manage and the limits within which I can manage, it wouldn't worry me that much. But if I'm not sure of the inputs that I have into that cost built up, and then I sign up for huge penalties, then I will be worried. It's purely based on that. I don't think it's linked to anything else. It's about your ability to manage cost, your ability to understand the scope and deliver that scope in lines with the SLAs.
Do you think that it's better to have it on the total contract than on the management fees? Because that's quite a hit.
I would prefer it on the management fees. The question is, does my client prefer it on the management fees?
To the other side of the table.
I think we will prefer it on the total cost of investment that we do, or the loss that we have because of some non-performance. That's what I would say.
I said this is going to be debatable, but I'll not make it too debatable right now. Moving on to question to Prasanna here is, what according to you, you feel is a better model out of the two? And or do you think that there are horses for courses?
In FM, there is no one size fits all kind of model. It depends upon what is the requirement, what is the kind of nature of work. Going forward, I'm seeing that the trend is going to be the SLA or output or activity-based contracts, which will be the future. Cost plus, when the risk appetite is less, you don't want to take a risk. Mostly it is basically cost plus. But then when we talk about SLA and activity-based models, here the productivity is what counts. Here the transformation is from deployment or having physical people to getting that work in that 8 hours time and making sure that we meet the client's SLAs. So that's where the difference is. I think it's going to be activity output SLA based contracts, which is going to be the way forward. But then again, depends upon the nature of work. If the work is monotonous, cost plus is okay. If the work is fluctuating, the necessity of a output based contract will be very much essential at that time. That's what is my take.
Sure. Thanks, Prasanna. Anil, do you have a view on this?
Yeah, I think none fits all is what I believe. So cost plus, if you take one of the main contract, it has a cost plus possibly. When you drill down, it has certain SLA, certain penalties. So every contract, every industry, every, infrastructure company would be requiring all these things to be incorporated. It all depends on what contract you're having, what is the arrangement you're having, and what is the understanding you're having with the service provider. So mostly, when it comes to, like I work for the airport, the government has given a concession to us on the cost plus model. But what we work is with SLA, with our service providers. So it all depends which company and which contract you're working for and how it will be. And when it comes to horse to the course, I think it's there. It's, as I said, none fit for all. So you have to use it as the requirement comes up, and the best fit for the use at the time of requirement is my point.
Just want to add one.
Sure.
Today's SLA's contracts are mostly, I would rather say it is glorified cost plus hybrid model. I would rather say, it has got all the ingredients of cost plus. It has got all the internal KPIs of a service provider factored in as the external KPI, whereas it should have been the other way around. The flexibility should have been more for the service provider, and the customer's satisfaction levels or the other cleaning efficiencies. Those should be the measurement parameters rather than looking at what is the input which the service provider is doing. It should be the end result which matters. That's where probably it should be moving towards.
I think hybrid post-COVID has been the norm. So I think it's becoming applicable everywhere. Moving on, question to Malini is that you have been now, with Infosys for more than 2 decades. And you said that, you are in an cost plus model. So what challenges do you envisage if you want to move from a cost plus to a SLA based contract?
So like Infosys has grown over these 2 decades, we have been in a cost plus model, and predominantly because the organization has put in a certain set of expectation which the facility team manages, the cost plus has worked for them. But we don't see that, though we say there is availability of people, but you don't get the right set of skilled people. As technology is growing, usage of those machines and, those things are a challenge. So what's helping us, or what we are looking at, is having a semi output based, wherein you get the resources, you get people to manage that, but the strategy can still be built by us. So that's the journey that I was talking about, where the thinking is still done by us, but then it's more of a partnership with these big agencies now. Earlier, I think when we started 2 decades, it was just housekeeping. Today, it's more a very complex system, which also needs to ensure the people side of it, the governance of it, and the compliance, which is of utmost importance for us. So it is challenging to make that shift to output, but then I think that would be the way forward. Yeah. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, I think yes. And but at the same time, I also want to ask you that now that we are talking about cost plus and SLA, but is there any other third trend that you see is coming up?
I was just having this small thought when I heard Sanjeev, who was talking about people, how much can a mechanized machineries or robotics replace people? Is there a thumb rule that is there? Because if investment in that can kind of reduce dependency on people, maybe it would be a better model, but then I'm just leaving that thought. It's just come to me when I was listening to him.
No, definitely. I mean, mechanized cleaning is also a way forward, but definitely our industry cannot be totally replaced with machines. And I think Sanjeev has given at least some hope to FM that there's more population that we can bring in FM industry. So I extend this question to Nilesh as well, that do you see a different trend coming up, other than the 2 that we are talking about?
See, there are a couple of models which probably are in the offing. One is the baseline model. The second is the glide path savings model. There are very few companies who probably have ventured into that. Probably a few multinational companies who probably have this model overseas have tried getting that. It involves a lot of engagement between the client and the service provider, a lot of trust, a lot of transparency, because when you talk about a glide path savings model, you're committing to a client that, yes, I'm going to be saving an X percentage year on year. One good thing for the service provider is that it's a stickiness. You get a long-term contract. It's a 5-year or a 3-year contract where you're able to actually invest your time and resources in generating that saving for a client. For the client, I think it also brings in a lot of transparency, a lot of trust in the service provider, because that it's going to be a partnership for the next 5 years. You're not just going to be terminating him after a year or so. So it's a win-win situation for both of them, but it's going to take some time because even from a cost plus model to an SLA based model, it's taken quite some time to come in. This is a wish list. Probably in the next 5 years to 10 years, it might come in. So that's something which we can look forward to.
Sure. Thanks, Nilesh. I think, yes, the GMP model would be something which people would be talking in near future. That brings me to the last question to Prasanna for the day today is, once we are moving from an input-based or a cost-plus model to an SLA, the on-site employees that are there, how do you think you can upskill them to, get prepared for these changes?
I would rather say the change, the change is, or transformation is from the deployment to productivity. So this change needs to be driven top down. It cannot be only at the site level that you talk about. It has to be top down. Unless we talk about productivity, measuring that, making sure that people are aligned, all these things will not work. And I always say performance or productivity is equal to ability into motivation. So you might be well skilled, skill must be there, but then if you are not motivated enough to deliver the result, you will not get the performance unless you have the motivation to do it. So it's basically a multiplication factor, ability and motivation, skill and motivation. That's how the performance can come. So site level team needs to be trained on all these aspects of how to become more productive, how to measure, how to measure their own work and get the certification from the client on a daily or shift-wise basis. It's a transformation which we have to go through. And then site level leadership also is something which we need to talk about here, because it's not just the operations manager who come from the office once in a week, twice in a week, or whatever to the site. It is the site level. What kind of leaders have we chosen at the site who can manage these works? Most of the works on the SLA side will be technology driven. You will have to have some kind of a measurement matrix. You might have to have an app or all these things. At Topline, we have a lot of things which we try to get it on a daily basis or shift-wise basis on an app and all that. So this transformation definitely will be top down, and it will be at every level. It includes a lot of training, continuous training for that matter. And that's how it can change. And it's a slow process. It doesn't happen in a day. One good thing which we could have, we have been able to do is, we are a young company, 5 years old company, and we are not too large. We are not, resistant to change to that extent. So from the day one, we set up this particular concept on SLA, activity and volume based. So 60-70% of my contracts are on that. So that's how we have been able to sustain, because that's how you build a competitive advantage. Otherwise, we are competing with stalwarts. So that's how it is.
Thanks, Prasanna. And I think, before we ask questions to audience, I think they have been very patient enough and they have been listening to our conversation. I thought, we can ask a question to audience, or rather a poll from audience. Just by raise of hands, how many would like to go in for a cost plus model? If it can be a little, yeah, I think only one. Okay. Okay, maybe two. And if I have to ask for raise of hands for how many would like to go for an SLA or an output based? Okay. So we have quite a lot of them for that, but I think there are few hands which didn't come up. So I think they are also looking at a hybrid model maybe. So if I may ask the lady out there a question, why would you prefer for an cost plus model?
Same group. So she's already answered why we want to go for cost plus model, because it gives us more transparency, and that's how the conventional way has been operating. So I think we would want to, though we are open to explore the other models, we still would want to go ahead with cost plus model for now.
Sure, thanks for that. And anyone who would like to answer, who raised their hands for the SLA based contract? Sure.
I would just like to request all the clients as well as our known people in the facility industry that SLA should not only be considered for deduction, but there should be some motivation for the employees and the site employees in the terms of bonus for achieving some result. So for me, it's in that term.
Thanks.
I somehow believe that today the most RFPs are prescriptive in nature. So they just tell them what exactly has to be written and you go to a medical shop and buy it. I know what based on the prescription that has been given. I think it has to be more curative and it has to be more diagnosis basis. I think that's the approach and that's the shift that we should look for.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And now we are open for maybe if time permits, 1 or 2 questions from the audience for the panel.
Just one thing which I wanted to add. SLA should also come with incentives. It should not be only penalties rather, that's how is my take, because good, you deduct, but then you also motivate people with incentives. That's how, yeah, well done, yes.
Yeah, so my question was, if you were to really look at it, seems like the entire industry wants to shift towards, an SLA model. I was pretty surprised to see a lot of people in procurement also put their hands up for that. But how much would you attribute the success of this shift to the SLA itself being more objective than subjective? I think today a fundamental problem that we seem to have is that are the SLAs because we're all talking about transparency, right? So is it that if we had an SLA which was almost 95% objective and was not dependent on the relationship between the service provider and that particular gentleman at the site who's rating your SLA, would that actually convince procurement to shift towards more of an SLA based contract? And a follow-up to that would be, what do you think would actually motivate the procurement teams to shift towards an SLA base? Is it that you're looking at a lower cost? Is it that you're looking at more innovation? Do you think that an SLA would actually lead to, we discussed this in the previous panel, an economic advantage in terms of then providing sustainability? So just wanted your thoughts.
Maybe, yeah.
On the first question, you should look at how a contract is created. Most of the time, the scope is included in the RFP, and then it's floated to the market. The SLAs and KPIs invariably get finalized within the first 3 months after the contract goes live. Because you have that 90 days kind of a transition period, and that's when it gets finalized. That's the issue. The first thing that you need to do when you design a contract is understand the scope, and then the client needs to define what his output is. Once you have that, and then you float the RFP, then it becomes that much more easier to address the issue of whether am I being price driven, am I being headcount driven, or am I being output driven? Because today the problem is you're trying to define an output after you've finalized the commercials, which then becomes very, very difficult. And this is 90% of the contracts is usually like that.
Just to add to that, see why we should be shifting to SLA based. Conventionally, we must be doing the headcounts where no one is gaining, So if you put the SLA based, both sides are gaining. There is an advantage and there is innovation is coming inside, and there is a freedom is given to the service providers how best they can do to achieve the required targets in the, to achieve the SLA is what has been asked for. So it has a win-win for both of them.
Can I just take? Yeah. So I'll just quickly share the merit of what we say the SLA based or outcome based contract. We have been having a contract which is a large contract. Actually, I would say 300 people started some 10 years back. And for 2 years, we ran it on a cost plus model. And basically, it's a tobacco leaf manufacturing plant. And the problem statement was the percentage of rejections of the tobacco leaf was more than 5%. And for them to become business viable for them, they wanted to keep it less than 1%. So then when the SLAs were kicked in, we had a lot of discussions on this. And we came to believe that the clients don't want to increase their bottom line by putting penalties on us. It's a very insignificant amount over there. So when we started with this, I would say that the rejections which came down below 1%. It's added to their bottom line. 4% they have been able to save. It's a complete export-oriented unit. Tons and tons of what we say bulk processed cigarettes, leaf goes to European market. And it's a big, because if a single, a non-tobacco related material goes into that, there is a complete batch which gets rejected, which is worth, $2 million. So that was the problem statement. So SLAs, they helped in. Then when we spoke about the penalties, they gave us incentives. But believe me, for 5-6 years, when we have been month on month getting incentives, the first year, the clients were completely at discomfort. The incentive was 3% on a management fee. Suppose if you are having a 10% or 8% management fee, we are getting 3% as incentive. Every meeting used to happen that there is some problem. These guys are shafting us, taking 3% over there. But when slowly it went up, after 5 years, they found the rejections are less than 5.5%. There is no discussion over there. Second part, from 300 people, when we got all these things, we brought in a lot of innovations over there. 300 people came down to 180 people. So the whole plant, the same kind of a production, we have been managing from housekeeping, I'm saying housekeeping as well as the leaf processing. With a cost plus model was we managed at 300 people. And what we did with this 3%, we climbed back to the people for an incentive of 2% over there. So the employees were happy because they were based upon the rejections, they were getting incentives. So that flexibility we got and the client was happy. So I think if you look from a very larger perspective, rather than going on a month-on-month basis, you will find a lot of value in an outcome-based model over there.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very valuable. Any other questions before we close? So I think thank you very much. Thanks to all the panelists here. And just to summarize the whole thing, I think from what we see, though we are majorly on the cost plus, everyone here is looking out for a SLA based and an output based contract. Yes, but what they are also looking at is not only don't charge us penalty, but also motivate us with incentives. And yes, way forward, we need to look at that. So I'm sure with some thoughts in our mind, we may look at our coming year with increasing more SLA contracts. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the panel members and the moderator for making this session as one of the key highlights of the evening. I request Ms. Radhika Anand, HR Director, Indian Subcontinent, to please come on stage and felicitate our panelists and our moderator. As we move to the final segment of the evening, I would like to thank each and every one of you for being such a patient and beautiful audience. As they say in Kannada, Navu Shigradalle Bhetiya Gutteve. Sorry for the pronunciation, which means we'll definitely meet soon. Thank you, everyone. I request Mr. Bharat Agrawal, Finance Director, Indian Subcontinent, to please come on stage and thank our esteemed guests.
Good evening, everyone. Whenever I meet with this particular set of customers, the customers that comes from this industry, interact with them, I hear the ideas that you guys are implementing in the industry around. Only one word that comes to my mind is that this community is the community of change makers. So a big round of applause for all the change makers sitting here in this room. And when I say I really mean it, a change maker is someone who really see the problem of today, tomorrow, and then go that extra mile and solve the problem. And we at Diversey are really proud being partnered with you in this journey to solve some of the critical problems that you are trying to solve with our latest technologies, emerging innovations, and the spirit of customer centricity that we keep at the core of everything that we do. With this, I would really like to thank both the keynote speakers for sharing such a great wisdom today with all of us. Thank you, sirs. Both the moderators for stitching the entire panel discussions in such a beautiful way that it was quite well managed. And all the panelists for such an interactive panel discussions that we could have today. Some of my colleagues who worked really hard to make this day evening a memorable evening for all of you. I would like to just take a few names here. Rupesh, Sitaram, Amrish, Pankaj, Vishnu, Vinay. I'm trying to remember all the names. Komal, Jay and Ritika. Thanks for all the wonderful work that you did. Enjoy your rest of the evening with the dinners and drinks being served. Flood us with all the ideas, comments, thoughts that you have, and help us understand what better that we can do for you. Thank you. Goodbye. Take care.